our goal is to cooperate with natural laws, eat healthy so you can live longer, spiritual laws, repent, have a fear of the Lord, walk in the spirit, not in the flesh. So there are natural laws, spiritual laws. So our goal is to learn all of these things so we can navigate through this walk so that we are taking every entry point and foothold away from the enemy. So I just wanted to share that real quickly because I want us to know that even though it happened a long time ago, right? There are still things that the enemy is using against you and I. All right. So that is it. No fear in it. It's just really getting in that place with the Lord and saying, has this been resolved? Has this been resolved? And carrying guilt is just as bad as not confessing and repenting. If I'm carrying guilt because of something I've done 20 years ago, that's an inroad just as much as not repenting of it. So there's the balance. There's the balance. You don't want to carry fear and condemnation and disgust and regret. Regret's a big inroad for the enemy. You carry regret, that is a whole inroad into your life to cause sickness, okay? So just letting you know that that's why we have to have stable minds. That's why we have to have sober minds. That's why we have to have healed minds, which is our topic tonight. There's going to be a lot of slides, lots of them, but let me share with you real quickly how the teaching is going to go. So this is going to be a two-part, but it's all going to be together in one teaching. So tonight we're going to talk a lot about what mental illness is, why the mind is tormented, why it isn't healed, how you can, etc. And then next week we're going to talk about there's only one way to heal your mind. And don't think that you know it because we don't know it completely. And I don't know it completely, but I'm going to share how I got my mind healed. Now, what did I get my mind healed from? Well, as many of you know my story, there was a time in my life about 20 years ago where I was literally diagnosed mentally ill. Okay. I had every kind of diagnosis. I went to the big hospitals, the Mayo Clinics and all of that. And I was so mentally tormented that, as you know, I had to physically have my hands tied to bedposts in my little 8x10 room. I was totally paranoid, did not have a relationship with my daughter, talked to her through a door. Every utensil I used, I threw away. I never used the same utensil more than once. You have plastic utensils. I would order all of this utensil. And if I used it once, because I believed that an antibacterial soap could not get the bacteria off the spoon. So I would put a wastebasket out. I had help. And my daughter remembers that very horrific time in my life. And she actually suffered post-traumatic trauma from me being in that situation. We don't even understand how these things affect our kids. She was going through, is my mom going to die? What's going on with her? She went through rejection and abandonment because I lived on one side of the bedroom. She lived on this side. I lived on this side. So if you don't really physically see your daughter for a year because you're in a bedroom, when she'd go to school, I'd come out. It was kind of like a bat. I was like a bat, right? Come out in the dark or come out, but when she was at school. So when you understand, when I'm telling you about this is a short understanding. I mean, just an overview of what I went through so that when you hear me telling you this is exactly what I did. So how did I go from that? And plus, how did I even get there, right? That's more interesting, but we won't talk about that tonight because it's a complex story that will be eventually shared on the website because I just don't want people to think it's that easy. Everything we do is going to take some work and a lot of things are going to have to they're going to take time. So anyway, that's the kind of mental illness I suffered with. There was a lot of post-traumatic trauma that I still dealt with after that situation. Just because it was over and the mercy of God healed me doesn't mean I didn't go through tremendous post-traumatic trauma. Let me tell you how that manifested. Hypochondria. I used to, for several years after that, use a napkin at the restaurant to use the salt and pepper shaker because I had trigger points of bacteria because I was going through a bacterial infection. So when you have the guys in the white suits with the masks come into the room because they think you have MRSA or flesh eating or whatever, and you're visited by guys in masks, right? They put you in this isolated room. It's white. You're sitting on a sterile silver thing and they're running all these tests and they think you're fully contagious, right? So that does all this stuff to your mind. So for several years after that, my mind was very tormented and very unhealed. It took me years. Now, this was 25 years ago. This took me years to get my mind right. And I tried doing it without Christ. So the enemy put that on me through my own sin. Look, hey, I took responsibility. There's a lot I was doing that gave him this big inroad. So he had full inroad. I was seeing a psychic, for goodness sakes. Let's go there for a couple of minutes. Besides all of that, I had many, many inroads because my mind was already unhealed before that. That is not why my mind was unhealed. That's not why my mind was tormented. My mind was tormented way before that, which even caused what I'm mentioning to you tonight. So it's like we have to go way back, but we're not going to have time to do that. The whole purpose of me sharing a little part of my testimony is that you can see the severity of what someone like myself has been through and come out of. And there were ways that I strategically came out of that. And to this day, I still have to watch those triggers that want to send me back into those fear and paranoias. So if you were to say to me, Melissa, hey, how are you doing today? I would say on my way, right? Continuing to be on my way with the continuous healing, the continuous freedom, the continuous deliverance, but I still have triggers, post-traumatic syndrome, things like that, that want to creep in, that want to still creep in to remind me of that time. So just to let you know, so that as I share with you, you can really hear my heart to understand that when, we had a couple of calls hit the ministry this week. Ariana was on one of them. So was Tanya. A gal calls us from the mental ward. Hey, April, how about our call with that beautiful young lady, Christian, awesome Christian lady. April called me one night right before I left to Chicago. Hey, Melissa, my friend, I'd like to visit with her. What do you think? And we met with this beautiful lady who's being horrifically tormented. Now, when you're visiting with someone like that, which is pretty much a lot of people, okay, 40 million Christians, we're going to talk about that statistically. Now, hers was hyper severe on a scale of 1 to 10. That was an 8. The girl that Tanya and I and Ariana met with yesterday, she was actually in a mental ward in Australia, called us from the mental ward. They're injecting her with psychosis drugs. She doesn't have a will to say yes or no. So they literally force her to take the injections. And you know who's forcing her? Her brother, who's the doctor in the clinic that she's in Australia. So she's calling us and we walk her through and she said, Melissa, what do I do as they're forcing me? Most coherent gal. I mean, we were shocked at how coherent she was. Melissa, so what is your advice? They're making me take these injections. They come in and they're forcing me, and these injections last like a month in the body. So what can I do to protect myself? Because I feel like I'm failing God by taking pharmakia and I'm walking faithless and that whole thing. So we gave her some advice and she just took it. Because she called for counsel, she received it, it made sense, and now she's on her way. Now we have the potential of working with her, and I know her. She's heavily entrenched in the New Age, came out of the New Age, and now she's getting her life right. So that is one example. Then we have the gal with April, beautiful woman in Christ. April said, Melissa, have you just met this gal? She's so super anointed. She's so amazing. She's so sold out for the Lord, but she's in a crazy situation at home with family and everything else. Just our relatives will make us mentally ill. I have cousins, that when I just say their name, I get traumatized. But anyway, so we helped her to the best that we can because we had April, about an hour and a half. What can you do in an hour and a half when you're visiting with a Christian woman going through that kind of torment? And this is prevalent in the church. The minds of Christians in the church, this is a common theme where our minds and the minds of Bible-believing, church-going people who pray, women, I'm speaking with women who pray, who fast, and who are believing the Lord, are going more and more mentally ill statistically. This is not a statistic that is out there somewhere. It is in the church. This is who I'm visiting with. This is who's DMing us on Instagram. Oh my gosh, can you help me with this? Da, da, da. That's what's happening. So we have to understand what's going on in our own minds first, because if our own minds are not healed and delivered, how effective are we going to be? And how discerning are we going to be? You can visit with a lot of mentally ill people that were plants and think that you're spiritually busy, but you had no business visiting with them. April and I had to make that decision. I had to talk to April for a little bit. Hey, April, let's talk about this. Let's make sure this is a person we're actually supposed to work with. And each of you are called to ministry. We're all called to ministry. But if you're here in Mount Movers, part of your assignment, part of your purpose, part of your goal, I think part of your desire is going to be to help other women or a specific demographic, maybe kids, maybe the elderly. But guess what? everybody's going mentally ill. And I'm not saying that just facetiously. I'm saying statistically now, because of what's happening, and you already know that I don't need to go there. This is going to be the most prevalent situation. It's not even physical illness. Forget that. Physical illness is way down here. Mental illness is way up here. Unfortunately, the mental illness left unresolved causes physical illness. So we're going to talk about that. So this is why it's going to be very important in the season to understand a few things. Number one, everything is a big deal to the devil. Number two, everything is a big deal to God. So let's get off this gray area where we think we're going to be able to get away with a lot in this season, because we are not. There are things being done to us in the environment. AI, there's a lot of things going on that we can't see and understand and perceive that are going on, and we don't have the physical eyes to see what is happening. But we do have spiritual eyes to understand that we have to get on a defensive, offensive mode with our mind, because they're coming after our mind. They're not coming after our body. The enemy's not interested in your body. Just so you know, he's not interested in giving you an autoimmune disease or a sickness. He wants your mind. Winner take all when he has your mind. Winner take all, because part of the way you get healed is in the mind. Part of the way you receive salvation is in your mind. You make a decision which is in your mind. So if he can take your mind, he has it all. He will make you sick if he has your mind. So in order, if you were to say, Melissa, what is the most important component of a Christian in addition to the heart? I would say the mind. Okay. That is extremely, that is the area and ground that Satan is most interested in taking legal authority, legal authorization over is your mind. All right. And because the mind allows you to receive the gospel scriptures, make sense of them, put them in correct context. The mind allows you to actually receive the love of God, to use your will to fight against the enemy. When you're doing spiritual warfare is not out of your heart. Spiritual warfare is out of your mind. That's why you have a helmet. One part of your armor is a helmet of salvation. You know why your mind is protected? Because Satan's after this. That's the hardest part of the armor that you're wearing, is that helmet. Ask a football player. So this is what Satan's after, and this is why we have to be on the trajectory to make sure that we are getting healed.